Thank you, everybody, for coming in. This is just good to see. I was telling Justine and Ben, you know, this is the last session around 4 o'clock Eastern time. And we're just kind of wondering what people would do. So it's good to see that people are here and ready to close the 2 days for as much as you've been able to participate. So glad that everybody's here. And my name is Margarita. I've been with the Retreat Center Collaboration for a little bit. I sit on the steering committee, and I've been in and out of the 2 days. And so it's good to finally be in this seat to be able to guide you. Let's just call it that, a guiding to the closing of today. So I think we can get started. What do you think, Ben and Justine? Yeah. So before we get started, you know, I don't know how you all do clapping on Zoom. Many have different ways of doing that, but let's give Ben and Justine a big old clap for all the work that they've been doing. Look, can you hear it, Ben and Justine? Can you hear it?
Loud,
Can you hear it? All right, that's good. Great. Well, let's get started. Thank you again for everybody for coming to this last session. And what we're trying to do is just really taking some time to do 3 things. One is to reflect, which I know that we've been inviting all of you to reflect in these past 2 days, and we will continue that. Number 2, we're going to celebrate, and it's going to be celebrating our resiliency. We are, I believe, it keeps me going, a resilient people. And so we're going to lean into that. And then the last thing, we're going to just inspire and to get that energy we need to continue on with this precious work that we're all very much involved with. Okay, so these 3 things, and I really, really want you to kind of just let loose, relax, and this is time for conversation. It's not really time for a huge presentation, and we want you to help close this with us. Make sense? Okay. So Ben, I would invite you to put in my little tool that I use to help guide this conversation. We'll get the PowerPoint started. All right. So what I would like to do is just invite you all to reflect back to yesterday and the beginning of the retreat. And throughout the different sessions, I know that people have been using the thread theme. And it was such a big part of the opening, right? That connection to one another, the network that we are creating. I mean, I was just telling Ben and Justine that the RCC, the Retreat Center Collaboration, planted a major seed here these past couple of days. And we're so excited by all the retreat centers that were included into this conversation. So I want us to bring us into a closing by reflecting in our beginning. Some call this like a bookending program, right? So we start with one and we're closing the chapter now. And I'm just going to read just a part of the poem that was read in the opening session, right? The Way It Is by William Stafford. And this is what I would like you to do. I would like you to mute yourself, if you could, and I'm going to read it. And you also are going to read this portion of the poem, but I want you to read it in what is the word that you're going to emphasize. right? And you're going to hear the word that I emphasize, but I want you to read this and emphasize a certain word on this. Okay, so I'll give you an example. There's a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change. So I want you to, I don't know if you're there by yourself, so I hope you are, because they're going to think, well, what is that person reading out loud? But I want you to read this out loud. I can't hear you. Nobody else can hear you here, but maybe your family or your people that you're with there can hear you. But I want you to read it a couple times and emphasizing the word that really speaks to you. And don't do it out loud yet. All right, what I'd like you to do is I'd like to invite anyone who would like to unmute themselves and to read this part with emphasizing the word that they chose. Do I have a volunteer?
Nancy, we can't hear you.
Oops. There's a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change. It doesn't.
Who else?
There's a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change.
Thanks, Lauren. Arlene.
There's a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change.
Thank you, Arlene. Anybody else want to give it a try?
There's a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change.
Thanks, Lawrence.
There's a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it does not change.
Jean, are you speaking? I can't hear you. Ah. One last person.
There's a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change.
Thank you. So we hear things, we read things, we experience things from so many different perspectives. And so what I invite you to do right now is that we have some questions that we would like you to kind of reflect on and write your, you could write it right in the chat, right? So with the different insights that perhaps that you received from these past couple of days, it all sits with us very differently. So my questions are, What new learning and or insight helped to weave you with another retreat participant, perhaps in the past 2 days, or another retreat center, or that you will take to your own work? Again, we all receive different things from this. Well, what is that one thing? Did you connect with another person? Did you connect with another colleague? Did you connect with a retreat center? Go ahead and take some time. And again, it gives feedback for us too, here at the Retreat Center collaboration to know what connected with you in your immediate, just in an immediate response. What will you take back with you? Who did you connect with? Or what retreat center did you connect with? Who did you thread with? So I'm going to take some time, keep writing if you would like to. I'm just going to read some of these. My personal thread weaves with the thread of my retreat center, with the thread of the land. I need this community. I've been in an echo chamber for too long. Insight. Our center has not been emphasizing the critical link with the land of our ancestors. This will change. And all this weaves with the thread of the RCC. The importance of the land as a connection, teacher, and source of healing. Power of place, transformation. It is good to center. I'm hearing the center and retreat centeredness in a new way. The acorn has the DNA for an amazing oak tree. Thank you, Barbara. I connected with many new centers. I am new to this position and really welcome the unity and common purpose of this during an incredibly transitional time. Also, a shared respect for power of place. Edge work. I connected with every person I met in the breakout rooms. I am drawn to several people by their spirit and perspectives. It's amazing, isn't it, with the written word, how we can just be really direct, insightful to our souls. I just thought I'd share that. Connected with a dozen or so like-minded, like-hearted individuals. New circle of wonderful people and wonderful content. Time, the metaphor for taking time, Michael. As small as we are, it was good to be reminded that we're not alone, that we're woven into and are held by a larger tapestry. So why is Margarita reading all of these? I'm talking to myself in the third person in that. I think what happens when we're in Zoom, we just got like some, you know, we just are so dangerous to ourselves. We're like, all right, I got to see people. I got to read. I got to answer questions. So let these wash over you, because we've done some amazing things these past 2 days and connected. as people on a common mission to do good things in our world. I want to remember how easy it is to break through barriers when we use our imagination and tapestry, great word. I connected with Ben's. Rob inspired me, and the Alex Haley Farm is where I desire to go on retreat. All right. The pains and hurts of others to be able to accompany. Threads woven together, turn in rope. With many, but especially my metaphor group. Powerful that discussions will stay with me and surrender. Nice. Ben's heart. Do you see that, Ben? That's good. I love that. I'm not going to read through all of them, but they're beautiful, beautiful. Self-care is not optional. Heal the healer, AR. Remember when you said yes to your present retreat work. Beautiful. So threads, right? So we're hanging on to the same thread. It doesn't change. And yet as we hang on to each other, there are just some amazing comments here that know that out of reflection, which is one of the purpose of this closing, is to work on reflection. Take time to just kind of reflect on what happened these past 2 days and encourage you to stay connected, to exchange the email, to look us up and be inspired by the connections you made. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the next phase of this closing and to celebrate our resiliency. And I know that you all have your handy dandy journals, and if not, something to write with on a piece of paper. But I have certainly reflected, and as many of us have, right? And those comments came out throughout the 2 days about life pre-March 2020 to where we are today. I mean, it's such an impactful time. And we're resilient. We are a resilient people. And so in retreat work, we know that the people we serve are also very resilient. We hear the stories all the time. And so this is what I'd like you to do on your piece of paper. I would like you to give yourself, your resilient self, a piece of advice. And that piece of advice goes like this. What kind of advice would you give your pre-March 2020 self as you are aware they're about to head into a really challenging time? What kind of advice would you give yourself? And Ben, if we could put up the second slide. If you can give your advice to your pre-March 2020 self around staying in the light of hope during times such as these, what would that advice be? And I ask you not to put it in the chat. Just write it down on a piece of paper. Now, let me just tell you, when I did this before with a group, I got the answer, buy a lot of toilet paper. That takes us back, doesn't it? That takes us back. And so, and if you wrote that down, that's okay. I just wanted to give you an example of what somebody wrote. So take your time to do that. think part of the poem that we read in the opening session, nothing you do can stop time's unfolding. You don't ever let go of the thread, is a perfect connection to this exercise. What I'd like you to do now is we're going to just share that with one another in a smaller setting, right? So you all know the drill, and to also, I ask you, when Ben closes the group, you know, that last minute that everybody wants to kind of like, oh, do I talk? Do I start to talk or not? That last minute, just kind of, because it's not normal. It is not normal for us to Zoom and come back into a big group. This is not normal, right? So that last minute, kind of breathe through it, enjoy it, but don't finish a sentence like do 3 words and then try and have to finish your sentence when you come back, okay? So try to kind of close it up a little bit so that you don't have to function in the normal of Zoom, because it's not normal. All right, so Ben, let's do it.
All right, here we go. I have several rooms prepared.
Oh, a dog, how cool.
Whose dog?
The dog has entered the room. Well, welcome back, everybody. I'm curious. I'm so curious, and just to hear what your conversation was like. And this, I would like you to, whoever is comfortable with it, of course, is if anybody would like to kind of just get a sense of what advice that you heard, or what insight and surprises that you heard in your small group. Any insight?
I'm just aware of a sort of paradox that I'm holding that I think is just part of this time. That a lot of conversation in our group was about connecting virtually. And then at the same time, I had such deep insights during these past 2 days about the land. And a lot of my reflection has been focusing around the land. So I'm just holding both of those because they both feel really important in this, but they're so different from each other. And it's helping me redefine what does that mean about the power of place and space, because it means a lot more than I thought it meant a year ago. So I'm just grateful to the group for that.
Thanks, Michelle.
There was a word that came up in our small group, and it really was profound, but it's stranger danger. Because of we're moving from, do we wear our masks? Do we not wear our masks? We're used to being cautious, and now we're meeting people. And just, it really caught me because that's how people come to us. Although we've been open the entire time, there is this stranger danger around safety, around health, and just to be cognizant of that. And what does that mean as we continue to open? It was powerful.
Thank you, Susan.
Mm-hmm.
This is just coming to me. It doesn't come out from our group, but I facilitate a sort of practice that one of our touchstones is no advice giving, and yet I found myself really grateful to listen to my small group and realize that some of the advice that they would give themselves, I would have gratefully taken. And so there's a lot of wisdom in this group. And I wonder about sometimes when I just wonder what would have happened if we had any sense that we were going to dive into this gigantic water of what advice should we give ourselves now, or what advice should we share? And we did some of that, but it's just, I really am relishing, I think, in the wisdom of this group and the maturity of this group, and the life experience, and how it is we see the world. So I'm very grateful for wisdom, I guess, and I am going to take the advice that someone gave themselves, which is rest.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Jane. Yes. Anybody else? I think it's interesting. Billy, were you going to say something? Okay. I think it's interesting that the two words, wisdom and advice, that you bring up, Jean, and that advice to the pre-March 2020 self and the wisdom that we now have are the two different places where we were, right, and where we are. It's so because we believe we are resilient, that I think if we knew ahead of time to prepare and listen to that advice, it's just not would have, could have, because we can't live in that place. But it's we are, and that exercise in itself is about celebrating in many ways. How that word resonates in many ways, because how do you celebrate after so much grief and challenges that we've had? But to celebrate the gift of resiliency is something that I think this advice giving does. Okay, we are now starting to close into this last end. And this last piece is about inspiring. And the inspiration, and I just want to acknowledge, and I know we've talked throughout the 2 days of how Fetzer and their generosity provided us with these beautiful coasters that have these quotes, right? And so a lot of these quotes that I'm using right now are part of that package. If you did receive them, if you registered a little earlier, we were able to get them to you. And so one of the quotes says, compassion goes about finding the work that can be done, and love can't help but stay present, right? So what I invite you to do now is just to take some time of quiet and just imagine. You don't need to draw, but you can. And it's just imagining, and what image appears to you as you imagine retreat centers flourishing together to continually build the spiritual foundation for a loving world. What image appears to you? So I'm going to go first and share my image. I imagine us, and I don't know who all the us is, but us coming together at a retreat center of people we've met along the way in this time, especially since the beginning of the retreat center collaboration, and joining together in celebration in one of those long tables and sharing a common meal and just enjoying and being with each other, sharing story, celebrating, and just connecting with each other. And it's in maybe early evening time, where the smell of the nature is so, for me, just my favorite part of the day. And we're just, going back and forth and sharing, and somebody on the end of one part of the table has something that somebody at the other end of the table wants, and then we're passing it along to each other. So can you imagine that? All of us together around the table, sharing bread, breaking bread together. That's what I imagine centers flourishing together in relationship with one another. Does anybody else have an image they want to share? What came to you?
Yeah, so what came to me was a really big campfire circle. And it was as if somebody way up above was looking down, and it was twilight. So it was that time of the night where you could still see, but things were starting to get dark. And you know how like embers come up off of the fire pit sometimes, and those little sparkles are just everywhere. So you could see like everyone's hands open, and they were each holding a candle. And you could also see their feet, and everyone was barefoot on the ground. And so from this angle, from up above, you saw cupped open hands with a light, feet on the ground, bare feet, and you couldn't really like see the ears, but you knew that they were open and listening, because what you heard around this campfire were crickets. And so there was just this stillness and that sense of peace of just being together around this campfire with everyone.
Wow, I can't even smell the campfire. Thank you for that. Anybody else?
I have an image of each of us having something almost like a candle, or maybe like the Olympic torch, but something more modest than that, that we're passing one to another from place to place, leaving a piece behind, but then, you know, carrying the relay forward into and sometimes into places where we're not even sure where we're going. But having that, I guess it's a light. I also maybe imagine it as a planting too. It's got both those pieces to it.
Thanks, Kathy.
I imagined a web. There are spider webs at dawn, just after dawn, at our retreat center. If you go for a walk, and there's dew all around the spider webs, and the ones that are horizontal have a great deal of depth. And I imagined a web, a horizontal web, with the planet Earth in the middle, being supported.
Wow. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you for that.
I had an image.
Billy. Good to see you, Billy.
It's good to see you too, Margarita. The image came right away. It was of a basketball. It's like a basketball? And then as I sat with it, I just thought about how beautiful retreats are and how there are these designed rhythms that allow us to go to these deeper places. And I guess the basketball it's a different kind of rhythm. Like it's in a relationship with a body. You dribble the ball, and sometimes it's quick and sometimes it's slower, but there's a rhythm that happens there. And I guess I'm just working through this understanding of, yeah, what does it mean what does retreat center mean in my neighborhood in Detroit? And this sense of different rhythms, and understanding what these rhythms are, and then also understanding what designed rhythms are that take us to deeper places.
Nice.
Billy, thanks for sharing, because it allows me to share mine, which was a football team. And that, because each person has their job to do. And if we all work together, we're going to make our goal. And you know, sometimes we wish our retreat center was more of the left tackle, and other times we wish we were the quarterback, but not everybody's retreat center right now is that some are in the trenches trying to block and get things through and others are running out free and doing different things and running different routes that they don't even fit with the game sometimes. But just that whole idea, that's first, as soon as you said do it, and I looked down, I went, it's a football team, because each person has a job, and we all have to do what our retreat center does best. And if we all do that, we meet more of the needs that are out there for anybody.
Thanks, Paul. Love it. Anybody else? Sheila.
I can. Yeah, we live in an area where there used to be 6 little bed and breakfasts around our lake. There's not a lot of lodging inventory around here, and one slightly bigger place. It took a couple of years, but I developed the Friendly Area Lodging Network, very informal. As I kept telling people, we do not need to compete. When it is a busy time, we each have to help people find what they need. When it's a slow time, they go to an individual place because of that place's unique attractions and abilities. That's what I thought of when you were talking about the retreat community. There's no competition. There's something for everyone. Mm-hmm. People are going to identify with and relate to different circumstances depending on what they need. So we can all help each other. And I do this all the time. People contact me and say, can we come there? And I say, your group is too big, but you can go to one of these 3 places, or we don't have handicap access, or whatever the thing is. I spend half my summer just referring people. And it's great. It's just helping people get what they need.
Thank you for that, Sheila. I think that the exercise that we did right before when we started this was about the emphasizing of a certain word from the poem. And the word that I tend to gravitate to in the 3 words that make up this group called the Retreat Center Collaboration is the word collaboration. And I think that all the images that were shared and this whole sense of this rivalistic versus working at peace with each other is certainly what collaboration brings out. So thank you for that reminder, Sheila, for that as well. We have time for one quick more. Does anybody have another image?
I have one that I can share. Sorry, just distracted by an incoming phone call. So the image that I had was being in a very large field on a hillside, which looked relatively ordinary, air quotes. Lots of rain suddenly came, a whole bunch of rainbows showed up. And then somehow in the course of a few minutes, something that generally takes several hours occurred, which is that the whole hillside started blooming with flowers.
Nice. Well, on behalf of the Retreat Center Collaboration, we want to thank you for being here, for participating, for gaining the insights and the connections that you did. We'd like to close. I don't know, I believe you were all invited to bring a ribbon or a piece of string or a cord, even if it's your cord from your computer or whatever it is that you have handy. Try to find something if you don't have a green string like some of us do. But this is what we're going to do. We're going to create an image. And again, it could be anything. It could even be your little cord that your computer is connected to electricity, whatever it is. We are going to create our own image of connection with each other. And so I have mine up and I'm just going to connect it with the person that's next to me. So stretch it out. Just stretch it out as if you're connecting it from one Zoom square to the next, right? Somebody had braided grass in one of them. It was awesome. This is just so cool. And Ben, I know you're holding on to, or is Justine going to take the picture? Justine is going to take a picture. And see, make sure you don't cover your face like I was doing. See if you can connect to the person next to you. You got it? You think we got it, Justine?
We have us. It'll be close enough. It's beautiful.
Okay, so that's the thread. Stay connected. This is just the beginning for those of you who've been with us for some time. Keep staying connected to us. It's all in process, right? And those of you who are new to us, you are no longer new to us. So welcome. You are part of us. You're part of the family. And we love having you. So thank you for being here again, Ben and Justine. Thank you so much. And for the Fetzer Institute for all the work that they do in getting this going. Adios. Gracias. See you later. Bye.
Thank you, Ben and Justine.